Hi there, I'm Lana Monday Emmett, and I'm here with Coach LCO on Swimming in the Ocean of Consciousness podcast. How are you?
Good day, Lana. How are you? Good day to you all. Welcome to Swimming the Ocean of Consciousness Facebook video podcast. Lana, I am doing very well today, and I'm happy to be here with you.
Likewise, and I am super excited about our discussion today because
Yes.
today we are talking about couples and relationships and intimacy and how that carries over into the family.
Yes.
So let's maybe begin talking a little bit about your trek, your past, because you've gone through a whole lot of different changes and scenarios. And I'm sure our listeners would love to hear a little bit about your experience and how that you've coped and how things have changed for you throughout the years.
Not a problem, Lana. It's actually a really great question because I truly believe that love begins with self and the nurturing and caring of oneself. And that's how when we do meet someone we choose to share a life with, a partner, a friend, a girlfriend, we are ready to truly share. And most people aren't ready to share of themselves with others. And so it's kind of a looking to take situation. What can this person bring into my life? Meaning whether it's intimacy or sexuality or sensuality. We're always looking for something, but we're not finding a balance. And I would like to invite you to ask me any random question. I'm very open to it. The reason is because it's such a big, you ask such a good question, but it's a very deep and broad question.
Right.
That I'll start to give you some little foundational stuff, but you might find ways you want to ask into it. So, I mean, of course, I've always, you have to kind of understand my backstory, and I was sort of raised by my grandma in a house with her and her kids and everything. So what I'm saying is a house of women with two men that was my uncles that were there, but primarily women. So I had a little different experience I was always a people watcher. So I've learned to really connect with the female aspect of what they feel and go through. And I think that has always influenced how I have relationship with women because I'm not coming from like, oh, who's this foreign and alien creature? It's like you actually understand the opposite sex and you understand how to talk to them. And that gave me also the ability to talk about emotions or feelings, which most men shy away from. But because I was, like I said, those types of conversations aren't foreign to me, then it's comfortable for me to have intimate conversations with women about relationships. And I think that has always been a part of my flow forward. And what I could say that I've learned is that you must really truly touch and know yourself in love and intimacy, because not is not impossible, but it enhances the experience you're able to have with a partner in any way, sensuality, sexuality, as deep as we can go with it. The more you bring of yourself to a relationship, but with enough humility and humbleness that you allow another person to come and show their love and not feel like you always have to be the light shining in that room. And that's where it's hard because most of us are used to just being individual. How do you surrender part of that and let your partner now take the lead in love? And that's always a little tricky.
I think you're exactly right. I know I have a lot of friends that were male friends that were raised by single moms.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they are much more in touch with their softer side or their sensitive side. And, I think a lot of times men are conditioned that they're supposed to be rough and tough and not supposed to experience certain emotions like sadness or to be soft or be in touch with their softer side. But the truth is, when it comes to relationships with your significant other, it's really helpful to be able to understand and relate to the feminine side. And that's all part of balance. I think, us working out things internally and being secure enough to be in touch with your feminine side, or for females to be in touch with your masculine side.
Your masculine side, very correct. Yeah, it's a balance on both ends. It is really the center point of the infinity loop where everything meets at one. Because you could be representing in the physical form, I am male, I am female come together, but then in the dynamics of dimension of all of you have, let's say for you, male aspects, male energies, male spirits with you that makes up who you are. That can be confusing for some people, and that's why I said it's important to do those internal work, because then you could establish who I am, who is my spiritual counsel, who stands here with me behind the layers, because that's how I'm gonna respond or interact with my partner or my other significant other. And sometimes when you're unwilling to create a balance between you and your partner, there's always going to be a seesaw type of thing. One's going to be up and down. We didn't want to meet here, because then that's where the intimacy happens. That's where the coming together happens. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that spark of magic in love is not just physical grab and take what you want. It's sometimes the pull and the play that happens with lovers. You know, it's I call it the dance of love and dance of life, because a woman wants to see that a man is willing to follow her, to chase, to see, so she doesn't have to be all that she is all at once. She can sort of lay it in hidden layers, and that is intimacy. To
Mhm.
take the time, because it's not just a game to her. She's actually showing you certain parts of herself at her own pace. And that
Mhm.
takes time when the man like, no, now come on here. Why we're wasting time? It's Friday night. We got to get busy. And you know, so don't want to take that walk. Don't want to have
Right.
that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, most men don't want to take the walks. They don't want to have that conversation. They won't just sit and dialogue. I mean, there could be touching and there could be feelings and emotion, but if we can connect deeper, when we do come together in love, in the act of love, it's so much more, what do you say, potent. You know,
Yeah.
the kiss means more, the embrace means more. And you don't just, that's not just something you get. It's something that's earned between two people, that deep level of intimacy, that feeling. And that comes from nurturing.
Right. And I want to circle back to what you mentioned to begin with, where you talk about it all begins with self,
Yeah.
because we have to be good with ourselves before we can be good with another person. We have to have that perfect or that balanced relationship inside. We have to be okay with ourselves before we can extend honestly, incredibly, and authentically ourselves to be in a relationship with somebody else.
Very true. And what that is, Lana, is earlier when I was mentioning understanding who all comes to the party when you show up,
Yeah.
the layers to who you are. That's what happens in that work that you do for self. You see, when we exist in the ego self, we're not aware of the full package that we are, that we came into the world with. And that's where we get kind of lost along the journey of life itself. And most people don't wait till they're 50, 60, 70 years old to stop and say, okay, who am I? What's going on with life? But then you can't really live life. But when you can double back on it and you can say from the beginning, there is masculine, there's energy, there is feminine energy all around me, and those are my dimensional spiritual layers to be tapped into when I do that internal healing work. And when they come together, not that we change, but we become all that we are and what was meant to be in a fullness. It's still one body, one being, but we are rich in all that we are. We tapped into the masculine, the feminine, and in between that, we conquer the ego in establishing who we are, knowing self of self within. And that's intimacy, that's true caring of self. Because now when we try to love and connect with another, we can see the journey of time. We call it the walk of life together, or that bus ride together through
Yeah.
life. Yeah, like with one of my partners, we had established that no matter what, life will take us different places, but it's you and I on this bus ride together. And the bus, meaning the bus makes stops at different places. Sometimes one of us will get off, or we'll both get off, but we always know that somewhere along the road of life there's another bus stop, and we'll meet there at that bus stop.
Right.
And it's just a metaphor, but it really means that when you truly come together, you can be together at times, and sometimes you can be apart and still be together. Sometimes when you're apart, you actually learn that you're actually more together than when you're together. Or
Right.
you're
And
capable of
sometimes,
being more together when you're, you know. And that's
sometimes,
the idea of the bus ride.
well, what do they say? Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
So does ice cream.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. So I'm curious, what do you think that makes, because this is a social connection. So what makes a social connection healthy or healthful or good for your wellness when it comes to your relationships? What should you put in and what should you be able to take away that is good for you, good for your soul, good for your spirit, good for your mate's spirit? What is the healthful takeaway? What should you put in and take away?
I think it's the ability to have a reflective moment or point within that relation, whether it's social partner, family, lover, where you see a person for truly who they are through time, and then to be able to witness the unfolding of all that they can be to all of their moments that ability gives you time to have an internal self-reflection with yourself, to see your own growth. Too
Mhm.
many times we don't stop to really focus in on the love that truly of what we are and the growth of what we are. Because what I'm saying is then we can change our outlook into the world. And that's where we affect society to our relationships with love. If we love tenderly, if we love sweetly, if we're able to impart wisdom to our partner along their journey without interfering with their process of discovering themselves, without telling them what to do. But
That's hard to do or hard not to do.
that, yeah, I know, and that's what I'm saying. So it's hard for us now. Let me help you. Let me fix this for you. Versus that difficulty, not really difficult, but the edginess of I want to get forward to say something. To just kind of enjoy watching them, but then learning how to say a nudge in the right way, like you do with kids when it's like so that they start to discover you, or you just have a conversation that opens the expansion of their mind just a little bit to something different from what they're currently holding their viewpoint at. That's a more difficult skill than to try to say, okay, now I did it this way, so this is how it should be done. And so what happens is when we do that, we miss something. We miss that true intimacy of connection. Because that's another person that's in society. That's another person that has their own goals and their own dreams, and they're living their own life in a different way. And somehow you just came together and made a decision to share a life. And so what happened is we don't want to take that light from another person when we come together. And it's just kind of hard to do sometimes.
I think sometimes too, especially we become creatures of habit.
Yeah.
And you'll see all the cartoons and things out there where you have the old couple, they've been together forever. And she's adamant about what she says, and you're going to do this, and why don't you do that? And and he's set in his ways too, and then they're bumping heads. And
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about is really too long term, trying to not become, I don't want to say overly comfortable, because you want to be comfortable with your mate or your spouse or your significant other,
Yeah.
but you also need to be able to let them experiment and do what they need to do for their soul.
Yeah, to be able to let them breathe
Yeah.
through life. And I think that's what I was trying to refer to. And um, uh, I'm sorry, I'm looking up something real quick. I wanted to read to get across my mind, but to be able to let them breathe and be who they are, and to witness, like I said, to witness them. That's true love, because now you're watching the unfolding of someone you choose to love, or something about them that made you love them, and then
Right.
this is kind of what I'm going to read for you here. You get to see that change happen. So you say people go through changes, or partners go through changes, and sometimes we're like, no, I want you to be the person that I met. Why are you
Yeah.
changing? But life is a river that flows, and so if we allow that river to flow along, kind of like you think you're running along, hey, Lana, you're good, and I'll go with you. You're in the water, I'll run aside. And that's the journey of life. That's the bus ride. Is no matter where you go to, no matter what you go to, I'll be along that riverbank with you
Yeah.
until we can meet a point that I can reach in and grab, and either you'll pull me in the water with you, I'll be able to pull you out. But
Right.
somehow we're going to find it together. So you have to let someone else have their journey. And without letting someone else have their journey, we try to have our journey and their journey at the same time.
I think that's probably one of the most difficult things long term in relationships that people experience issues with. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
because like you said, you get married, or you get, when you first meet somebody and you fall head over heels for them, and they talk about, then all of a sudden the honeymoon wears off,
Yeah.
or they get the 7-year itch,
No.
you know.
Oh my, what was I thinking?
Yeah. But like you said, sometimes, people have to evolve. They have to change, because every day we have a new set of experiences that we go through. And every single one of those is going to change us or alter the way we think, whether we realize how significant or insignificant it is. It still has an impact with us. The people we meet, our experiences at work, our experiences in our relationships, our discussions with our kids, ultimately it all impacts and makes us the individual who we are. So you can't expect to be the same person that you were 10 or 15 years ago, because you have all these new 10 or 15 years of experiences since then that have changed and contoured you.
Flowing, always flowing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And once that, what you said is so beautiful, because once you can recognize that you are changing, you could then see how the dynamics of the intimacy with your partner changes, because they're also in their own stream of life changing as well. And they want you to see them for that change and not see them for or judge them based on who they were or what mistakes they made 5 years ago. So it's always the flow that's flowing. And then you can see how two individuals flowing, constantly changing, is trying to contain a home that's never the same. It's never stagnant because within that home is an energy of fluctuation, constantly going. Two people that love each other, but they're constantly going. So that what beside the physical home, the home that embraces the heart is constantly structured and changing as well. And when you add kids to that, now you have a dynamics of a family. And when we each then go out into society, kids go to school, parents go to work, we take part of that healthiness with us or that unhealthiness.
Right.
And that's why it's important, like I said, to check ourselves at the door before we enter or leave our sanctuary, because then we know we're taking the best version of us with us, or we're coming home to the best version we can be, and we're going to leave the rest of that right there at the door, which is hard to do.
Yeah, I think we touched on that before because we were talking about actually insulating your sanctuary from outside negativity and bringing it in. And, you know, I think a lot of people don't do that. I know I've had to just sit in my garage sometimes once I get home and just breathe, you know, because, you know, you've had this long day and it's been challenging and you're like, okay, when I go in, I just want to be good. You know, I want to be cleared of the negativity, you know, and let it go.
That happens to so many people because most people don't take that stop to cleanse and clear. They come inside. Hi, honey, how are you? Let me tell you what happened today. And John had like dinner's almost ready, but you're not listening to me. And then all of a sudden, because now we want someone to hear our story.
Yeah,
we want to unload our garbage truck of the day onto our spouse or onto our kid. And then when we're not stopping at, oh, maybe they might have been having a bad day or they might have had a heavy day. How am I should be coming in and say, hi, how are you guys? So good to see you together. How was your day? Tell me more. Right. And that goes away because we want to be heard. Yeah. And so I think with self-healing and love and caring and nurturing, and that's the true intimacy with self, we don't need to have that validation from another or to be heard so much, because that needing is quenched by our own heart. We can figure that part out. And then we can come home happy and healthy. Let me read this for you real quick and you'll tell me what you think about it. So it says, in order to make a relationship last, you really have to flow with a person as they change. Give them space. My friend always told me about his grandfather who was with his wife for 60 years before she passed. His grandfather said that through all that time, his wife changed so much, it felt like he had been with 8 different people by the end. But he said the secret to making it last and to making it work with your partner was through all the changes, he never suffocated his wife with his own idea of who he expected her to be. Rather, he loved fully every one woman she became along the journey.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I know, I saved it once I came across it. It kind of falls into what we're talking about. How can we walk beside each other and, you know, be a partner to the different changes, to open it in time? It's not always about, you know, sex or intimacy. Sometimes the commitment of a journey of a life is you really become partners. You really join as one. And how do you become one while remaining two, while being one in mind, heart, and soul? But we walk 2 different paths because we have 2 different bodies and 2 different bodies, and to share that life with each other. That's hard because I want what I want now, and you should want what I want, not what you want, because that's what partnership is. Oh, wait a minute, no, it's not. It's about 2 people sharing, you know. But that narrative has so easily been slided into. It's about me wanting what I want plus you wanting what I want, versus no. A family means togetherness. Right. 2 people together. What do we want? What's best for us? Not one person telling the other person what the family's going to do, how the household's going to be. It has to be a balance between 2 people. Because now you put seeds of love, nurturing, and caring that the kids, you can pass on to your kids, or they will see, and that's generational love. Right.
So there are a lot of different things that you can do. I mean, you can look online and there are article after piece written about what you can do to improve your intimacy. Yeah. And one thing I noted that I found interesting, but it goes along with the flow, is shaking it up. Because as you're going through different changes, sometimes it's good for couples, they can bond as they try different things, new things together, instead of, I want to go try this and I want to go try that, but instead they try, brand new things at the same time together, and that's a bonding thing. Do you have thoughts in terms of what people can do to really strengthen that intimacy? What do you think?
In terms of that aspect, that is truly the path to be on, because that's walking the path of life together as one. Um, it does really take coming together and exploring new things together, because what happens is it's also how you learn how your partner learns. It's also how you learn what your partner truly likes. It's also how you learn what really puts a smile on your partner's face versus what you think they're gonna like. Oh, they like red balloons. They might not like red balloons, but that's just what's on discount at Safeway that day that you go into the grocery store. But if you really prefer that, they would prefer more of a handwritten card from you, because it's just a bit intimate for them, and they like to be able to read your words. Those attention to detail, to know those subtle little things about your partner, you don't always just discover, and there's not always a time for them to share that with you. And when you do things together, you learn how to, like I said, observe your partner versus just
Right.
being with them, or them being a reflection of you. You can stop sometime and let them walk 2 steps ahead of you, just to watch them walk,
Yeah.
just to watch the way they step on the ground. Those things are beautiful. And when we can do that together, we learn more of ourselves, but also of our partners.
Yeah. Yeah. And then too, when you're talking about the family, I think sometimes that couples, we forget to have couples time,
Yeah.
because we're so busy with the kids, and trying to run all the errands and be the soccer mom or be the football dad, or coach little league, or all these different things. And we do forget to make that time, that have that date night.
Yeah.
Even if you're just a couple and don't have a family, sometimes we get so entwined in our work, right? And we forget, oh, we need to set aside one night that's just for us. It's our date night, and nothing else is going to interrupt, and it has to take that priority.
Yeah, because like we said, life keeps flowing like the stream. It constantly moves. And if we don't grow in love together, we don't take those moments to check back in. And that's also sometimes it's a good point you made, Lana, because what happens is the same way we have to take time and make time for those special moments that we share together, we don't forget to. Really, what happens is we should never have lost that connection together at the first place. So what happens is we fall in love, and two lovers have this connection. Somewhere along that, like you said, that comfort point happens, and one of the other separates from putting care into the nurturing of the relationship. We just expect it to be there because it was there in the beginning, or it was this way when we met, and,
Right.
and so now I'm demanding that it be that way every day, that you show up for me this way.
That's right.
Yeah. And so we fail to stop and see the fluidity of love and how it flows, and the intimacy and the passion. Like I said, what we miss is the greatest moments of our partner's life, because we stop and we don't see them experience, grow, fall, tip, come up. You really see a flower blossoming when you can sit back and watch, knowing that you're there to step in, to guide, and to protect at any which moment, but you're not overriding their will to have their own experience.
Right. There's so much entertainment out there right now, so many different things that couples can do. You can go on a cruise, or, well, when COVID's over, you can go on a cruise. You can go to the movies, you can watch TV. But one thing all this entertainment does not do is provide really meaningful conversation. And that's a key element with all the entertainment that's available. I wonder how many people forget that they maybe need to step back and just have some one-on-one conversation time.
Yeah, love is not virtual.
Yep.
We have the tools, we have the digital tools, we can have love virtual, but the true essence of it is intimate. It's face to face. It's hand to hand. It's the touching. It's the feeling, and that is what should not go away. And too far we become comfortable with who our partners are, that we no longer want to embrace. Just come home and just kind of lay together and just talking about the day or daydreaming together.
Mhm.
That sort of intimate flowing, laying each other's arms and playfulness, that should never go away. But too far, we get comfortable and we stop doing those things.
Yeah.
And because those
Or you
those are
get
when we have
busy.
intimate conversations. Those are when a woman feels kind of like a baby or a kitten when it's there and it trusts you, right? When a woman's laying in your hands and her head's here, she's in total submission and she's totally open to sharing with you her most deepest parts of herself. And that is where you then can be a nurturing embrace, but now you feel in your love. And we stop doing that at some point. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We stop loving and expecting that the love that was at the beginning will be constant. That's what unconditional means. You told me you're gonna be there. Show up. Like
Yeah.
no, it doesn't work that way. I was waiting for you. What happened? Like no. Meet me here. We'll meet me halfway. We'll be there together. We'll walk it together. We'll share this together. If we fall, we'll fall together. But that means we're gonna rise together. We experience the life. We experience the many moons that comes and goes. We experience the rain. We experience the seasons, and that's another thing. Are we conscious of the seasons that pass and how beautiful your hair looks under the sunlight, and then how beautiful it is under the moon reflecting with the snow, and all these little small things that we don't stop to take and see. And it's not flirting. It is when I see the radiance of your beauty in each of the seasons, each of the days, and each of the elements, and that's because I'm watching the love of my life be.
Yeah.
And when we take that away, then it's just, come here, woman.
Go to the dishes.
God dang it. So yeah, but then that brings in that harshness that you said about where some men don't have that softness, and they feel to be able to touch and be a little bit more kinder is weakness rather than seeing no, that's the strength that she needs. And because I don't want a woman that's weak either, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to rough her into being. What I'm going to do is show her that her strength comes from knowing that someone is there to listen, someone is there to hold her when she's weak and keep her strong, and when she's strong, someone is there to walk beside to be her. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like they're never alone because they know your love is always there
Yeah.
versus your judgment of who they're not, who they are not in the moment for you to be happy.
I think it's interesting the number of counselors that are available for couples.
Yeah.
And if you would really step back and look at what a counselor does, a counselor forces couples to talk about the relationship one on one.
Yeah.
So I wonder how often couples that are not in therapy or having issues do not talk about the relationship.
That,
What do
that's the silent killer.
you, yeah,
The stairs across the room that never become verbalized.
yeah,
The pillow that's over your face that are emotions. Just can't get them out. Just like because like if I was to really tell you what I think and like you're not listening to me, and it's like all this, rather than I always say, well, let's come together and have a glass of wine and let's talk.
yeah. Right.
I would rather do that than have fighting amongst a relationship or in a home, because it's not a boxing match, it's not a ring, it's not a competition. It's intimacy, it's relationships. It's taking that bus ride together. So if something's going wrong or something's affecting you, immediately I put everything else down. We pour a glass of wine and you come tell me what's happening.
But
The
most
world has
people
to
don't
stop.
do that though.
No.
Most people, they internalize it and say, I'll deal with this at a later time, and they shelf it. Or they just start, it builds and resentment happens. And that's the downfall ultimately of relationships.
When true intimacy is the moment I see Lana, something's in your eye. No, I'm fine. Like, hold on. My whole world, exactly right there. My whole world has to stop, and I push everything away, and we come together. And if you can't do that for your partner at any time of the day, at any season, when you see something is there, you push the world back and you bring them forward. You say, it's about us, it's about you, it's about me right now. Whatever it is, we're going to solve this. So then we can rise something together, and then we go kick ass out in the world. But if you can't do that, then you're leaving them to drown in their own emotions that they're feeling that they should be able to talk to you about. But then now there's no listening because You could only hear what you want to hear from your partner. Most men, not all, but because yeah, but I've seen it happen. Some men, like, they become tone deaf to what their women are saying if they're not saying specific things. Dinner's at this time, laundry's done there. Okay, I got the kids. If it doesn't fit into a certain mold of what they think they should be hearing from their partner, like, honey, I saw this brochure and it's about a riverboat lake along the thing, and the dinner cruising, and like, I'm good boy, the game's on, we got to go do this. And it's always another reason why you can't stop to have a moment with your partner. Whereas, are you listening? That it's not just that she wants to go on a riverboat to have dinner or something. She's missing that intimacy with you. She's missing that time that you guys spend. Like I said, when you come home, you just kind of cuddle and just kind of hold and joke and love, experience love together, versus giving love a face or giving love a name that has to be this, it has to look like this, or has to take so long because after that I have to go do this.
Yeah.
So you're lucky you got 45 minutes right here. Like, that's not love. It's like, push the world away, bring your partner to the forefront, and that's intimacy.
One thing a really smart man told me one time, he said, you should be very aware, very cognizant of your words with your spouse or your mate or your loved one, because even though you may say something and later apologize for it, once that cat is out of that bag, even though you apologize for it, it never hardly ever leaves their mind, the memory.
And
So
the reason for that is very simple, but I'll steal someone else's word. It behooves me why it flies over most people's mind or consciousness, right? Because what it is, it's like not recognizing that before I say something to you, you say, yeah, you this, no. Especially women. The first thing the remember we talked about the tuning forks. The first thing that two antenna tuning of this the dimensional spiritual picks up on is that's not just something he said because he's angry or frustrated. Because for you to say something, you've had to have time to process it. For you to have time to
right,
process it, you've structured it into a way to say what you say. But before that, you were feeling what you started to process. Before you
right,
processed it, you were feeling it. And that's when you should have come to me, because that's what love is. The moment a foreign, strange feeling comes into our orbit, you stop everything and you call for your partner, because together, that's where the transformers type of thing come together. That's where you come together and you push back whatever unfeeling, because we're a union, we're a unit, we're together as one. When that doesn't happen and you feel, I said this, how did I said it out of anger? Don't, that's the J&B talking, baby. Come on.
oh yeah, okay.
When you know I love you, I only hit you because you made me do it. Come on now. But how can you then say that when it's fuck it? You had to. How I said that? You had to think. You had to think it or process it. You had to feel it
Yeah.
before you say it, and you're not aware of the force of your words on her emotional heart that you're just beating up on. And that's
Yeah.
the hardest part is some men become blind to that. They become numb to the
Well, I
fact
think women do too. I think that's just that's a
the
human
back
need.
and forth thing. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was giving the male perspective. But what I've learned from being on the other end of it, women are very where men can be rough in their words or their actions. Women are they'll take their time. They say things in a specific way, So, and that's what gets men every time, because they're looking for that 1-2 punch to fight back with. And she's like, I'll deal with this in my own way, and I'll tell you what, And so, and that now takes up months and months of this ongoing battle of emotion, rather than loving each other. We stop loving so we can see who's going to win this fight.
Right. Right.
6 months, don't worry about it. I still remember.
And that's a point.
Yeah, and at the right moment, I'll let you know that do you remember
Yep.
honey, I thought that was last year. You thought it was last year. Funny. And rather than letting it go, or like I said, get a glass of wine. Let's sit and talk.
Yeah.
Because now we're coming together and we're going to grow through something, versus I think this is what you're feeling, and I think this is what you meant by that, but I'm not going to ask you if you're not going to tell me. And it becomes a little petty game war that is unnecessary, and I think it takes away from time that we can be loving and healing, and like you said, doing things together that we can learn of each other. We waste that time nitpicking about the things that aren't important to the relationship, to the long-term bus ride.
So, ultimately with relationships, it goes back to the same thing. It does the same saying, the same phrase, no matter what facet of your life it is. And it's how bad do you want it? If
Yeah.
you want a successful relationship, then you have to make that relationship a priority and give it the time and love that it deserves and needs to grow.
Yeah, and that is a lesson learned from giving yourself time and priority to love and grow within self. And then when you're able to do that, that's when the union is stronger. That all of a sudden you realize we're a family. We're not just two individuals, even if there's no kids involved.
Yeah.
It's a moment that in the heart you're like, honey, we're a family. And you look across and you realize, yep, that's what it means. Whether it's in an apartment, whether it's, it doesn't have to be a grand. The moment you realize that you are a family with someone else, your life changes, and that's what
Yeah,
should be happening. That feeling and that love and that, yeah.
absolutely. Well, I think this is probably a good time for us to stop today. And maybe next time we can look a little bit more into how this flows into the family.
Yes.
Because we've really touched on spouses, significant others, mates. So what do you think about that discussion for next time?
That sounds very good, Lana. We can swim in the ocean of consciousness and see what binds two people to create a family and how together they can nurture love and share that they can do generational love. And that's the key.
Perfect. All right, folks, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for Swimming in the Ocean of Consciousness. Have a great day.